All right, so yesterday, let me take a sip. By the way, don't dream it, be it. My favorite mug from Tea Public thus far, the only mug I've gotten off Tea Public thus far. But I love the sentiment and the movie it came from, Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's actually one I've seen. I don't know how many times. Like a lot of people, it was a musical. As you may know, Rocky Horror was a musical in London, and it started off, I think, in a basement, or it was some tiny theater in London, and eventually, of course, was made into the film in the late 70s that we all know, starring Tim Curry, who I love. And it was so off the wall and ridiculous and bad in a great way that it was panned. But it caught on with people who can appreciate things that are just different, really different. And I'm one of those. I think it came out, did it come out? I was 13 when it came out. So that was ages ago. And I was 12 when it came out, and I started to go see it when I was 13 at this little cinema on Cape Cod called the Cape Cinema, which is just in Dennis, Mass. It's such a great little theater, but I started going to the midnight show, and I met all kinds of celebrities and just really great people at the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But it was a really bizarre, it's such a bizarre movie and musical, and no critic said, this is too weird it's great. It's so weird, it's great. And now here we are, it's 2021, and people are still watching it, not in crowded theaters, but still watching it. There are still midnight shows across the country. Of course, not where I live, but midnight shows across the country. I used to go to them when I lived in Boston, and again on Cape Cod. But it was weird. It's just such a weird friggin' movie that is now deeply embedded in our culture. And don't dream it, be it is just, I think it's going to be my phrase for the year, or my sentiment for the year. Don't dream it, be it. Maybe not a transvestite swimming in a, having an orgy in a swimming pool, which is where the song comes from. That's the scene. But don't dream what you want to be it. And along the weird and wonderful, yesterday I made a video proposing or kind of presenting a proposal that we all start emailing, writing, tweeting people in the Biden and Harris administration about a WPA program that really helped artists during the during the Depression into World War II. It went on for a decade or so. And I made the video, and then I watched it, and I went, you look like a loony. You look really crazy with this idea, because we know the GOP, the Republican leadership would never go along with something like this. They don't believe in science. A lot of the leadership, at least that's what they say. They don't believe in science. They don't push education on any level. It's all about the children, but let's not, make anybody smarter. They don't believe in culture. They don't believe in the arts. They never want to fund the arts. There's all kinds of barriers up, but our country did it once. FDR. I don't know how they did it. I really don't know. I haven't looked that deeply to find out how he was able to pull this off, other than millions of people were out of work, and possibly, I'm thinking possibly without knowing, the Works program was put into effect because it took people who couldn't get jobs out of breadlines and had them doing these tasks, these jobs that fed them. Some of them were horrible jobs, some of them were okay jobs, but at least there was a program in place for Americans who had lost their jobs. So they weren't just standing in line looking for handouts or standing in line looking for welfare or, having to prostrate themselves. They were prostrate. Oh, I can't remember the word. Anyway, people suddenly had purpose and meaning. And they were working for what they had. So it really wasn't that crazy an idea. But I looked at my video and I go, okay, you look a little loony. You look a little loony. But then I always look loony and I have no shame. So I just left the video up. But I did go on Twitter yesterday, and for about 2 hours, I was talking to different arts organizations in DC. And as it turns out, I'm not the only one. There are people who have been trying to push a WPA for a while, a works program for the arts. There's an unfathomable amount of arts and culture organizations that want artists to pay fees and join, and you can have this membership, and then they want us to pay, a fee to apply to a grant that you probably will never get. By the way, I've never gotten a grant. I'm not a grant writer, but I'm not one of those people that is blessed. That's like, ping, oh my God, you're just the person we want. Ping. I don't win awards. I very rarely win contests of any kind. I certainly don't get grants. I don't have the connections. And I kind of don't care. Although, because I find it so disingenuous when you have to, when you are blessed with a grant, when you are blessed with an award, because you know the right people. It's disingenuous. I find it absolutely, completely offensive. And so I don't mind bucking the system in that way. It would be nice if just once or twice people went, you are the artist. We've been looking for people on a higher level. I mean, never mind. It's really complicated, and I don't mean to malign people who do support me. Because I've got you guys, I've got people on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. I have galleries. I have reps a few reps who do believe in my work and do present my work. So I don't mean to malign them. It's just, somebody told me once to apply for the Joni Mitchell grant. Well, as it turns out, an artist can't apply for Joni Mitchell grant. You literally have to have connections to get this grant. You quite literally have to know people who know people to get that grant. Why? Why can't the work speak for itself? There are so many grants and possibilities out there, but they're not made for people like you and me. They're not made for professional artists who are stuck on their own, with support, but limited support, and not having the right connections. So I don't bother, because it's a tremendous amount of money and a tremendous waste of time. And all we're doing is giving them money for no reason. As I said, I applied here in town several times twice, because I just give up. I mean, all I need is fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. That's all I need. So as it turned out, I didn't get into either show until they found, I didn't get into either show, and then they found out who I knew. Oh, if we had known. It's disingenuous, it's disgusting, it's disgraceful. So I'm not trying again. I'm not doing it again. I've gotten into a lot of tiny town galleries, small town galleries, small nonprofit galleries, co-ops, and it's always who you know. and it makes me so uncomfortable when I have gotten into those galleries or those shows, or, you know, it's usually the small town stuff. Then I take other people with me who haven't had to fill out a who do you know form. You know, I find ways to engage or to pull in and include other artists who couldn't get in otherwise. I help them slide under the fence, so to speak. Because the thing in the arts, it should be helping one another. That's a major thing with me, is helping other people, not just helping yourself. It's another thing. It drives me crazy. It's disgusting, especially when I see artists that are higher up on the level who could really change other people's lives, and they just don't. They just don't. It's horrible to me. It's really horrible, and I don't think they deserve the platform if they're not willing to turn around and go, I don't know you, but I love your work here. Or, you know, I see some value in you. I mean, I'm sorry to generalize. It's just, it gets very frustrating when you're constantly trying or reaching out to people and they can't be bothered. You know? You can't be bothered. Or they can't be bothered. So anyway, it's a broad brush that I'm using in that circumstance. But let's get back to the WPA idea, which sounded really loony when I was making the video to present it, and really loony when I put it up. And then as it turns out, I'm not the only one. I'm not quite as loony. I'm just I'm not quite as loony as I, you know, part of me goes, you are that loony, and then the other part of me goes, no, that's a really good idea. Why aren't more people talking, or why aren't people talking about it? Turns out there are people talking about it. They're in DC, they're in organizations, they're appealing to the administration. They appealed to the last one, but really you couldn't do it without crayons and a coloring book. But I really, quite honestly think this time around, with this administration, which I believe will go on more than one term, we can create our opportunities. Very much like Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's be those people. Let's be those people. I can't remember Riff Raff's name. The man who played Riff Raff, I can never remember his name. He's kind of a dick. But the man who wrote Rocky Horror based it on science fiction movies and musicals that he enjoyed. And they were all tacky and horrible, and he loved them. And that's what kind of inspired him to make Rocky Horror, was his love of these truly tacky things. And there's no way in hell this should have turned into a hit that went on for decades, or, you know, a cult hit that should have lasted this long. There's no there's no good reason that it really, we should even know what that movie is decades and decades later. But he had an idea, a really weird, bizarre, incomprehensible idea. And here we are. Everybody knows Rocky Horror. So as weird and odd and incomprehensible as a WPA program for the arts and artists might sound at this point, because we know we understand somewhat the walls that type of idea would be bucking up against, you know, an entire political leadership who doesn't believe in education, science, literature, arts, culture. and all the corporations that pay them or lobby them, I don't see where it could hurt to try. So once again, I'm going to present the idea. Instead of sitting around hoping, praying one day, someday, maybe, let's try and create an opportunity for ourselves. Let's try and create a path. Write an email a day. Copy, paste it, send it off to other, to anyone in the White House administration, anyone involved in the arts, anyone who talks about culture. Write up an email, copy, paste it, just keep sending it out. That's my suggestion, because who knows what could happen? So what if they say no? They may go to bat for us. You don't know until you try. So I'm going to stick to that. Tweet people. I was on Twitter forever yesterday, tweeting back and forth with people in organizations that I had no idea existed or had this WPA idea, the same idea I presented yesterday. It just took a little bit of looking that I hadn't done beforehand. And who cares? What is the worst they could do? No? Or they could go to bat for us, and at least we know somebody gives a shit. Somebody cares. Somebody is willing to fight to put a program in place where artists, designers, musicians can write and perform and produce and get paid for it. Maybe we could develop an American culture that all of a sudden we could flip the tables, and all of a sudden over the next 4-8 years or whatever, all of a sudden we've come up with an idea that makes America see its own culture again, starts to treasure arts and culture again. The original WPA was open to all races and all types of art. And one of the things I loved was it wasn't just for white artists. If you look up WPA on YouTube, there's all kinds of videos about it and videos the government made about it. But there were a lot of black singers and groups that were funded. And at that time, black groups, black singers, black musicians, black artists were beyond struggling. They didn't exist as far as America was concerned. So you never know. Magic can happen. We just have to ask. Like anything in life. We just have to have that weird idea that we think nobody else has had yet. Just start working at it. Instead of dreaming it, let's be it, okay? All right, shower time and then painting time. Not sure what I'm gonna do on this one yet, still thinking about it. Anyway, don't dream it, be it, and I'll talk to you soon. I'm Beck Lane, this is Studio 120, and ciao. Meow. Ciao, meow, meow, meow. All right, Carrie, here we go. Boink.